Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Greetings from Chaos Central. I mean, it's getting better. There's only like 4 things on the CNC now. I've worked my pile down to a manageable level. And now I'm getting ready to get back on this and get some videos made. And oh, it's been an eventful week. Finally got my driveway addition finished. Uh, well, as finished as it's going to get this year. And the lean-to shed for my dust collector and compressor comes at the end of this month. I'm ready for that. I'm chomping at the bit. Continuation of the Shop Shed series. And that should be coming pretty soon. Not 100% sure exactly when, because there's a lot of stuff involved in it. Basically, I'm going to hook up the dust collector to the CNC controller so that when the spindle comes on, the dust collector comes on, and when the spindle shuts off, so does it. So wearing my hearing protection, I don't have to keep it on constantly. So, but more on that later on. We got I've been getting a lot of questions from a lot of folks who are brand new to the software. And those questions have to do with basically with the options. Well, the questions can be answered by getting into the program options. So I'm going to go ahead and go through most, not all, but I'm going to go through most of the options that are available to the in the software. Whoops, that was a mistake. I was trying to mark that to save it for later. Uh, so I'm going to go through the options and most of the options and kind of answer a lot of those questions all at once, one fell swoop. So just fair warning, this episode, this live Q&A is going to be screen share heavy. And there's no better way to get into it than to just go ahead and start. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't have a project open, but I did that just to show you that you don't necessarily have to have a project out here to get into your options. I will add a project in just a minute because some of the options you can't see until you have a project out there. Just basically go up here into the edit menu, and the only choice you have without a project being open out here is your options. And a lot of what has been asked has concerned what's up here. Now, up here we have save tab layout, save dialog layout, save the view layout, display splash screen, top ruler, bottom ruler, and tab location. Most of this is going to need a project open, but this is to show you that you can get into your options and do some editing on them without having a project in there. So let me go ahead and close that. And now I'll create a new file. And nothing here matters because I'm not going to be actually creating anything. We'll go back up here into the options. And it's all the way down at the bottom. Right here we have Save Tab Layout. Now, it kind of dovetails in with the view layout. I am the kind of person who likes to have this out here be as big as possible. And I know some folks prefer to have both tabs open at the same time. And that's fine. But what this is up here in the options, there we go, is when you first start your software, if you haven't changed this option, it's going to go back to the default with one tab open and that's all. So we'll just come up here to Save Tab Layout and click over here where it says No. And we have a drop-down menu. I can change that to Yes. Click OK, and now the next time I open my software, both of these tabs are open. And it will stay that way until I go back and change it. Now, I know some folks like to have this set up. Personally, I'm not much for it. I prefer to have this area out here larger, and I just switch back and forth, and that's fine. Now, let me get back into the back into the options here. Down here, we also have the view layout. I'll get into dialog layout in a minute. We also have the view layout. Now, the view layout has to do with this view out here. You can have, let me go ahead and close this, unpin this, so I have the maximum out here. And this is one of the reasons I do this. This is the standard default view. And we have our 2D view out here, our 3D view back here. You can also split the screen so that you have your 2D view and 3D view open at the same time. And we can split that screen horizontally. So I have my 2D view up here and my 3D view down here. Or we can split it vertically so that I have them both right here. And again, once I have this set the way I want it, come back here, edit options, and then save my view layout. Yes. Click OK, and that's saved. Now, bring that back. You can see how crowded this can get. And if I'm working out here designing my project, this can get a little bit cumbersome. So how do let's say I want to go back to just seeing the 2D view and I don't want to see the 3D view, how do I do that? Well, I just come up here to the maximize button, click on that, and I've got nothing but the 2D view. And then I can switch over to the 3D view should I want to. Now, if I want to go back to that split vertical, I just click on that again and it brings it right back. What changing it in the options does here is it makes that the default, so that now if I open up a new instance of Aspire, it should open up with this view when I create a new file. Nope, it didn't. I think I have to restart it. No change. Let's close that. No change. Now let's open it up and see, did it save it? Create a new file. Okay, there it is. That's what I had to do. I had to restart it. So that's what setting that in the options will do. And again, as I said, if I just want to focus on the 2D view and I don't want the 3D view, I can just maximize it and go back to the standard 2D view. But what that does is that saves your view however you decide to set it up. You don't need to see me. Let's make this full screen. So that keeps you from having to come back and reset everything every time you turn it on, basically, is what's going on here. So let me unpin this because I'm not a fan of that. And I'm going to go back into my options and save my tab layout. I'm going to switch that back to no. And my view layout, I'm going to switch that back to no. And should you get in here and make a mistake and, foul everything up, we have one saving grace, and that is this button right here. And that's to restore all the original settings. And what that'll do is that'll change everything back, everything you have changed here. It'll change everything back to the factory default, the way you got it from Vectric. So feel free to hop in, play around, do whatever you want to do with this. Adjust settings should you want to adjust them, and just give it a good go. Because even if you do foul everything up to where it's no longer visible or no longer tolerable, you can just come back and restore it to the way it was before you started playing. So there is nothing digital that can't be undone. So just the main thing there. Now the next one I'll get into is my tab locations. I've been using Vectric Software since, well, I started playing around in version 7, and I bought version 8 when it came out. So I got used to having all of my tabs down here and on the bottom of the drawing tab. And at that time, it was drawing, clip art, and layers. I didn't have Aspire. So, well, I did have modeling, but modeling was very, very limited. Well, in version 11 or 11.5, I don't remember which, they changed the tab location. Now, when you first fire up the software, the tabs are over here. That bugged the stuffings out of me. It really did. It bugged the heck out of me. So I went into my options and I put them back down at the bottom of the screen. And now they're where I expect them to be. So you have a choice in a lot of this stuff. So we'll get back to that in just a second. Mike Robbins wants to know, how do you scroll up and down on the 3D view? Okay, we'll jump over to the 3D view real quick. And this is based on basically a 3-button mouse. Okay. If you, what I mean is a 2-button mouse with a scroll wheel, excuse me, not a 3-button mouse. 2-button mouse with a scroll wheel. If you move your scroll wheel back and forth, you'll see that the 3D view zooms in and zooms out. Most scroll wheels are also push buttons. So if you push down on that scroll wheel, you can move it up or down. So if you zoom in down here and then push down on that scroll wheel, you can move up and down or side to side in your 3D view. Zoom in, zoom out, do whatever you need to do. It's also proportionate in that every click is going to zoom it in about, well, it's hard to say how much it's going to zoom in, but that's one click of the scroll wheel. Now, it doesn't follow the mouse. Some programs, for instance, if I put my mouse in this corner and I zoom in, it's going to zoom in on that corner. This doesn't do that. I wish it did. So as a consequence, you have to zoom in, drag over, zoom in, drag over. I have made that suggestion to Vectric, but I guess I'm the only one asking for it. So, we'll see how that goes. If you're trying to get your piece positioned back in the center of your screen, the easy way to do that is to go up here to straight Z view. That's this 1, 2, 3rd icon in. Just click on that and it'll put it in the center of the screen and zoom in. And that's the same whether you're talking about the 2D view or the 3D view. On the 2D view, it's this button here. And it automatically zooms it and puts it in the center of the screen. So there are a couple of other options I wanted to get into for folks. Display splash screen, that is when you click on your icon to start VCarve, Aspire, Cut 2D, whatever it is, a little, I'm using my hands like you can see me here. Let me get back over here. There's a little screen that pops up that says VCarve or Aspire or whichever. And then it'll disappear and the program loads. That little screen is the splash screen. And you can choose to display that or not. Now, I just keep it on because it doesn't bother me. And it lets me know that the program is responding. So I just leave it on. Now we'll get into a little bit of the appearance of this. Up here we have the top side ruler color and the bottom side ruler color. Okay? What this is talking about is, let me go up here into job setup and we'll change this into a double-sided job. We'll click OK. And now this icon up here shows, and that is toggle between the top and bottom side of the project. Right now, because the arrow is pointing down, we're looking at the top of the project. If I click on that, the arrow is pointing up and we're looking at the bottom side of the project. And you'll notice the rulers change to orange. Well, you can get into the options and you can change these colors if you choose to. And it's simple, just click, then you click on the three dots over here in the menu and you choose the color that you want to work with. This shows you the current color, and these are all preset, pre-selected colors, or you can come back here and you can get as custom as you want to get. Now, I will caution you, let me cancel. If you're going to experiment with colors, take a couple of seconds and write these numbers down. 237, 194, and 100. These are the RGB settings for this color. Get back into it here. This current color. If we go here into custom, we can see those numbers. Red 237, green 194, blue 100. That way, if you make a mistake and you just want to get back to the way it was, you can enter these numbers in this setting right here. Click OK, and it'll go back to this color. Okay? So this is for the bottom ruler. You can get in and do the same thing with the top. It's currently set at this gray, which most people just tend to leave alone because that is the default color if you're of the it's the surrounding toolbars. So most folks just tend to leave that alone. Russell Faraday says, I will second that. Rhino follows the mouse, and I'm 20 years used to it. Yeah, if you've used anything like, well, just about every graphics program that I can think of does that. It follows the mouse. And let's see, AutoCAD does it. NanoCAD does it. SketchUp does it, but it's only, now, it will do it here in the 2D view, because I can zoom in on that corner up here and or down here. But in the 3D view, you're just kind of stuck. So I have asked for that. But maybe the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we all need to ask for that. So that if we're in the 3D view and we want to zoom in on that corner, we don't have to keep moving it around and zooming in and zooming out. So, all right, let's see here. Let me go back to a full screen view here. Get back into the options. Oops, wrong. There we go. Also, we have the shaded background style and the background color and gradient background color. Let me pop over here into the Toolpaths tab, and I'll just jump into preview screen, get into the 2D view. What we're talking about is this background right here. Okay? Edit options. We can change this background style from the gradient that it is by default. We can set it to a solid color. We can set it to an image. Now, I forgot to grab the picture. A while back, I did a video on how to set a photo as your background. And I used the example of a white barn star. And I took a picture of the back of my house and put that picture of the back of my house here, then did a 3D carve of a white barn star, and then placed that drawing right up in the top corner of my house to get an idea of what it would look like when mounted up on my house. So what I'm getting at is you can import a photo as your background, and you have a wedding sign designed. You can take a picture of the wall that wedding sign is going to be mounted on, then do the carving of the wedding sign, and then place it on that wall and decide exactly where you want it. Give your customer, client, whoever, an idea of what that sign is going to look like in place. Now, again, I kind of failed to prepare because I was so busy this morning. I will put a link to that video down in the description of this live stream as soon as we're done live here. So that's an image in the 3D view. You can also just change over to a solid color. So if you don't like this gradient, you can bring up any color you'd like. Now, the background color and the gradient background colors, the background color is this color up here at the top. And it's kind of a grayish purple, I guess you would call it. The gradient background color is this color down at the bottom, this kind of drab gray. Now you can get in, and again, I would write down these numbers if you're going to play with it a little bit. So let me do that right now. We have 180, 180, and 250. So I can get into background color, and let's change it up to something like this. Okay. And we'll click OK. And we'll see what that does. Now that changes that background color 100%. Now, if I decide that I don't like this, or it's too bright or too, yeah, it looks kind of weird. And those of you with sharper eyes will notice I've already done this on my design computer in the house. I can go back into my options, come back up here, click on this, and then go into custom. And then right here, I want to change those numbers back. So we had 180. And then here we had 180. And then here we had 250. We'll click OK. OK, and that brings us back to the default color scheme. So you can get in and do all kinds of crazy things with your display if you want to. I don't think they don't have a dark version where it's all blacked out or anything like that. But sometimes getting in and changing this background, this is especially true when you're dealing with a material that's a similar color to this background. You can change this background color to something that's going to contrast your material color if it's very similar to one of these. So all of these things are completely 100% adjustable. Now, one of them that I got was I had to go back and look at it myself because of the way the question was asked. And I'll answer the question right now. We have right here draw origin. Now, right now it's marked to no. But if I click yes and click OK, we now see the origin point in the 3D view. It doesn't do anything in the 2D view. This is all a 3D view setting. So this is showing me out here on my material the origin point of this design. What I mean by the origin point is up here in job setup. This is where your XY datum position comes in. Right now I have my XY datum set to the lower left corner, so that's where my origin is set. If I change that to the center, my origin moved up to the center. Well, this individual saw, I forgot that I had the origin turned on when I made that video. So the person that asked the question was asking what this was. And I had to go back and look at the video to figure out what they were talking about. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's my origin point. It's just a way for you to see where your origin is and to help you kind of figure out how you have your material oriented if you've been in here playing around like this. I can go ahead and hit OK there. I can see right now that I have my blue facing up, so I'm looking at the top of the material, but my green is pointing in this direction and my red is pointing in this direction. Well, X is red, Y is green, so I know that I am a little bit twisted around. I'm not looking at this the right way. Up here, if you look at these three icons, well, if you look at all four of these icons, actually, and I'll move my cursor out of the way so you can see. This diagram shows here with Z as the large letter, X is in red, Y is in green. Then over here, Z is in blue, Y is in green. Then over here, Z is in blue, X is in red. This is showing us the different views. If I come up here to a straight Z view, it turns me back around so that my Y is running up and down like it should. My X is running up and down or side to side like it should. Then I can go into an X view looking at it along the X side, and I see this is my Y direction, that's my Z direction. If I want to look at it from the Y direction, this is my X, that is my Z. Then I can look at it from this position. So it's basically 100% up to you whether you have this origin there or not. It comes in handy, but it also gets in the way a lot. So, what can I say? It's one of those things where you can turn it on and off as you need, but it is kind of cumbersome. Go up in here into options, draw origin, change that to no. I do use it, turn it on, turn it off as needed. Click OK, and the origin's gone. So, okay, let's see here. I probably should break this up into two different parts simply because I've got some questions coming in that I need to get to. That was one of them there. I'll just throw in, okay, when dealing with the shaded background style, if you want to use an image, here is where you set that image, okay? You can get in and change this gradient to image, then you come down here, and this is where you set the file path for that image, okay? Now let me change that back to gradient, otherwise it's going to bug me about where the heck the image is. All right, so we'll get further into these options probably next week, but that's kind of a basic overview of what's going on. All right, let's see here. We have several questions, some of them that have to do with the options, some of them that don't. Let's see here. Chris Ciccatelli, I hope I got that right, is doing a project that is 24 high, 18 wide. Had to set it to 18 high, 24 wide to design it, so I didn't have to turn my head the whole time. I set my cutting paths, but lost them when I rotated it. Is there any way to set the cutting paths when you rotate the image so you don't have to redo them? Yes, very simple. And I'm glad you asked this because somebody else asked it earlier. Okay. Let me come back over here and we'll draw something real easy, but something you can tell. I'll draw a horizontal rectangle here. And we'll come over and we'll do a profile toolpath. And I'm not going to use a keyhole bit for it. I will change it over to a 1/4 inch end mill. And I'm not going to change anything else. It doesn't matter. What we're talking about is the direction. Well, I will change that. Then we'll calculate it. Okay. And we'll preview it. There is my toolpath. I'll reset the preview, close it, and now we're going to get back into the 2D view. And as you said, Chris, you had to rotate this to fit on your machine, but you don't want to, you don't want to lose your toolpaths once you have turned this. So let's go ahead and put this into move and transform mode. Then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees just by tapping the number 9 on my keyboard twice. Then select it. But now, if I check that, my toolpath is still going to cut this direction. Simply put, double-click the toolpath. Make sure your vectors are selected. Recalculate. And now you see that that toolpath has changed. I didn't have to go back in and redo it. So if you've got several, let's see here what I've got. Let me delete this real quick. Boink, and we'll close that, come back over here, go into the 2D view, and delete. Let me open a new session of Aspire and see what I have for let's open this one up because this is a very complex pattern. Okay, now I've rotated my I'm going to rotate my project here. And we have, let's see, what did we have? Let me just copy that, Control C. And my height is 15.75. So that's going to come up here now. 15.75. And this is now that number. So I've changed everything. XY datum position down here. Okay. And we'll click OK. Material values have changed. You'd like to recalculate now? No, not yet. Now I'm going to Control A to select all of the vectors. Type the number 9, rotate those 90 degrees. Then I'm going to align to my material. Now, with all of them still selected, I can come up here to this icon, recalculate all toolpaths. You can see that they're recalculating now. All toolpaths successfully recalculated. That's all that's necessary. The thing is to make sure that all of them are selected. Then it's this icon right here. Okay, I hope that answers the question, Chris. This is, it looks complex as heck, but it's also easy to get lost if you're not careful. Now, you can see when I come over here into layers, I've got a ton of layers. And as you saw back over here, I have a ton of toolpaths. It's 15 separate toolpaths, and some of them have a clearance pass. So not all of them, but there's 20-something toolpaths here. So I'll just go do it in reverse. So let me get back here into job setup. And again, all I'm doing with this, I can remember one number at a time. So I just highlight it, hold down Control, tap C, that copies that number. Then while it's highlighted, I can switch this over to 15.75. Then Control V to paste that number. Nothing else has changed. Click OK. It did not ask me if I wanted to recalculate the toolpaths this time. That's fine. Okay. Then I want to hold down the Control button, tap the letter A. Okay. Tap the letter A. That selects all the vectors. Then number 9 on, and I'm talking about the keys right, I'm using my fingers like you can see me. I'm talking about the keys right above the letters. It doesn't like the number pad. So the number keys above the letters. Tap the number, whoops, nope. I want to tap 0 to rotate the other direction. And center it. Align it to my material. Come over here to the Toolpaths tab. And then recalculate all toolpaths. Just make sure all of these are selected. And it'll go through and recalculate all of them. There we go. All toolpaths successfully recalculated. And now I'm back to where I was before I did anything. Now, if I go to close this, it's still going to ask me if I wanted to save it. But what can you say? Okay, let's see here. I hope that answers the question there, Chris. Let's see. MCD Tom, hi Mark, was using desktop and could do 3D tabs on profile cuts. Upgraded to Pro and the 3D tab option has disappeared. Any ideas on this? Do you have, let's get over here. Do you have show advanced toolpath options checked? That you'll need. show advanced toolpath options, because without it, you don't get much, and your 3D tabs are not visible. Show advanced toolpath options. So I don't actually want to do a profile toolpath. So hope that's it. So go back over here live. Yep, there it is. Okay, Jeff, what do you want? Says, trying to eliminate the waste from a preview image, no tabs being used. MCD Tom answered it for you. Double click the waste. Now, there is something else to look at, Jeff, and that is, well, there we go. If you have a bunch of little pieces that you have cut out and you want to eliminate those, you may have to zoom in, because your cursor, you may think your cursor is over that little piece, then you double click it and your main project disappears. Then you have to undo last and it'll bring that back. So you may have to zoom in and make sure your cursor is right over the top of the piece you want to eliminate. So, and that too can be a pain in the rear end. Let's see here. Now, Mark Richardson wants to know, if you add, say, 3 squares and highlight them all, can you resize them all? Yes. And let me show that. Now, this started in, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this one. This started in, I believe, version 11. Let me draw 3 rectangles, since that's what we're talking about. And close. And now you want to resize them. We select all 3. We go over here to resize, and this was added in, I believe, version 11. It may have been 11.5, but I think it was 11. You have a choice. You can scale the selection, meaning the whole thing. They will all be increased in size, or you can scale them individually. Okay? And now, if you look, I have 3 completely different sizes. Let's change this to 3.0. I've got link XY selected, so let's see what happens to 3 differently sized objects. They all become the same. Now, if you want the same size, let me Control Z and undo that, close. Let me just move these off to the side and we'll bring them back a little bit later on. And let's say we have right here, I want to make a 2 by 2 square, and I create here, here, and here. So I've got 3 2-inch squares. Then I decide I need them to be 3-inch squares. I can select them, scale items individually, and go 3.0. And because I have link XY checked, they will all remain square. Apply, and now I have 3-inch squares. Now, let me Control Z and undo that. If I click Scale Selection, this is taking the total area that these 3 squares cover. So we can see it's 7.8 to 8.07. Let's say I want to make this 9 inches. Because I have link Y checked, this also increased. We'll click apply, and that increased that. But now let's check the size of just one of those squares. And what used to be 2 inches is now 2.29 inches. So it not only increases the size of the area that covered, it also increases the size of the individual items. So if I didn't want to do that, I can select all of these and scale them individually and then change them to 3.0, and it's anchoring them from the center. So they're each going to be enlarged from the center out. Now, if I don't want that, if I want this one anchored from here, this one anchored from here, and this one anchored from here, so they all grow outwards diagonally, then I'll have to do them one at a time. Because if I just select one of these corners, they're all going to be anchored by that corner, and they're going to grow that way diagonally. So it comes in handy, but it's not always the right tool for the job, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So let's see. Let's go back to Trent Hamilton has one. Easy topic for you to cover. Yeah, you sound like my wife. Have you been talking to her about this? Easy topic for you to cover, making miter folds on the CNC. I made a video on it, but I'll be honest, it's very subpar. If you've made a video on it, take that video, look at what you don't like and change that. Look at what you do like and emphasize that. Okay? Uh, don't worry too much about video quality, or people will forgive subpar video. They will not forgive subpar audio, because most folks like me listen with headphones. And if there's a bunch of background noise, or if there is loud music playing and we have to try to listen, we can't hear what you're saying, then people get upset. But I can try. I've never done it. Okay. I've never made a miter fold on the CNC. I can try it. I will put it on the list. It is something I'm interested in. I just haven't had occasion to need it yet. But I'm not trying to pawn this off on you, but I'm saying if you've already made a video, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I'll gladly link it. Shoot me a link, put it in a comment, and I'll go check it out. And I'm more than happy to tell folks about your video. Okay. So, but I have never done a miter fold on the CNC. I just haven't had occasion to need it. But there are a lot of things that I haven't had occasion to need that I want to try. So, but more coming as soon as this all gets settled down. So you've been making floating shelves. See, now that's something that I would be interested in seeing. So by all means, look over your video and identify what you don't like. Focus on that, because sometimes, okay, in a former life, I was a real estate agent. So as a recovering real estate agent, I could, what I used to tell people when I was showing houses was, it's easy for you to identify what you don't like. Identifying what you do like is sometimes a little harder. So identify what you don't like and work on that part. And don't worry about being subpar. Worry about getting your message across. What I do personally is I set the cameras up, or I get my software started or whatever, and I hit record and I just start talking as if there is someone standing next to me that has never seen this before and wants to know how it's done. So I just imagine I'm having a conversation with that person and I'm showing, well, we got to chuck this up in here and we're going to set our X, Y, and Z zero over here. And we're going to do this and that and the other. So I'm having a one-sided conversation. And I'll be honest, when I'm shooting outside, the neighbors think I'm nuts because I'm standing there having a conversation with a camera on a tripod. But, hey, so I'm one step ahead of that guy walking downtown talking to himself in that I have something I'm talking to. But hey, yeah, post it, man. You know, Roger Brown, I'd like to see that video. Yeah, I'm with you. Go for it. Um, let's see here. Let's see. IL Peleg talking about Fusion 360. I'm having a hard time learning it. I've watched all the Autodesk videos, YouTube, LinkedIn Learning. Honestly, nobody explains things as clear as Mark. Well, thank you for that, Sargon. I really do appreciate that. But again, like I say, all I do is I sit down and I talk as though there's somebody next to me who doesn't know what something is, and I'm just explaining how I do it. Now, it's probably not the best way. Okay. Um, it's certainly not the only way. It's just the way I found to do it. And you guys educate me all the time. Okay. I don't think you can post a link uh, here in the chat. So when we're done live here, go ahead and post it in a comment. It'll probably flag it, so you might not see it. Uh, you might not see it immediately, but I'll go ahead and approve it. YouTube gives me the choice of whether I allow links or not. And generally speaking, I have it hold links. That way you guys aren't set off to somebody you don't want to be in a corner of the internet you don't want to be. Because, boy, believe me, there's a lot of that. See, Trent says, I'm just starting out with the video making. Everybody you have ever watched on YouTube was exactly where you are right now. Okay. So don't, don't let it, don't sweat it. It comes with time. I go back and look at my first videos and oh my God, I cringe so hard. My eyes roll so hard. I'm looking at my own brain. So don't worry about that. It will come. So, as far as learning Fusion 360 is concerned, I'm afraid you're on your own. I looked into Fusion 360, and don't get me wrong, it's an absolutely fantastic program. It's just a big, big hammer for what I do. If you are making assemblies, parts for assemblies, and like you're making gears for a clock. Yeah, you can make a single gear in Vectric. You might even be able to draw out 3 or 4 gears to where you want them. But you will never get as good a representation of the way that assembly works as you will in something like Fusion 360 or SolidWorks or what is it? Not Fusion 360, it's the one above that, Autodesk Inventor. You really, really honestly need something like that. And I just don't need it. So I never really got into it. Now I have it, but I haven't opened up Fusion 360 in probably 7 years. So the version I have is probably obsolete. So, yes, Brooks Martin, DaVinci Resolves make it easy to create content. There are a number of good professional quality video editing programs out there that are free. Like where DaVinci Resolve, where they make their money is in hardware. Now, you can do about 99% of things that DaVinci Resolve is capable of without buying their hardware. But DaVinci Resolve is used by professional studios, along with programs like 3D Studio Max and things like that. And we're talking about major theatrical releases here. But they also have editing centers that would take up my entire shop. And that's where DaVinci makes their money, is selling that hardware. You do not need it. You can do it on a PC. So they're more than happy to give away the software if it'll get you in and get you to start buying control board pieces. But it's a very, very good tool. I don't use it. I'm already invested in another program. I bought ULEAD Video Studio years ago. And ULEAD was bought by, oh my gosh, ULEAD was bought by Corel. That's been several years back now. And so I'm invested in that system, Corel Video Studio. I used to be very reluctant to recommend it because the older versions were kind of crashy. This latest version I have is pretty good. I don't have the issues that I had before, but I'm still hesitant to recommend it because it's about $100 if you are to buy it. Now, I get a reduced rate because I'm just upgrading, but I still would be hesitant to recommend it. If you're doing screen captures, I did a video on my channel about it. I use a program called Flashback Express. It's by a company called Blueberry Software. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll link it. Just wrote a note to myself. I'll link it in the description of this as soon as we're finished live here. I use Flashback Express. It is free. And it comes with a recorder and a player. And basically, you record, it records in their proprietary format. You open that format in their player and you export it. I export to MP4, and then I use that to edit. And it's 100% free. There is a paid version, but I have yet to find anything in that paid version that I need. Basically, what all that paid version gives you is an editor that edits their proprietary format that you're still going to have to export from because you can't upload that format to anywhere else. So I'll put a link to those and the video I made on it down in the description of this video as soon as I'm done. Hashtag not sponsored. They don't even know I exist. So, but yeah, link me to your videos in a comment as soon as we're done here, and I'll go check them out. I'm sure I'll promote them, because I'd like to see it myself and get in and experiment. And if you've already done the footwork, there's no sense in me reinventing the wheel. And the same offers for anybody out there. If you have made a video on something, tell me about it, please. I'm happy to promote it. There's plenty of room for everybody on YouTube, and I don't see us as being competitors. I will recommend your video if it's a good video and you're doing things safely and you know what you're talking about. You bet I'll promote your video. And on the selfish side, it takes some pressure off of me. So there is that. All right, we need to go ahead and wrap this up. This is narrow casting and closed circuit for a couple of people that I know are watching. This is free fishing weekend here in Oregon, so my wife and I are going fishing, and I got some work to do so we can do that. So Let's go ahead and end this. Next week, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do just yet. I will get back into more options for sure, and explain some of the ones that I didn't. But other than that, it will be an open Q&A, so bring your questions, bring your comments, your concerns, all of that stuff. And other than that, I want to give a huge shout out to my buddy Steve Nealon at Harneal Media. You see him here. He says hello to everybody. And um, I hope you and Pam are doing well, Steve. I know it's been a rough time. I want to once again say thank you to everybody who contributed to the GoFundMe. That GoFundMe link is still in the description of this video. If you haven't contributed, I would appreciate it if you would share that GoFundMe on your social media. If you have contributed, thank you very much. I do sincerely appreciate it. Channel members, tomorrow we got some pretty neat stuff, I think. It will be the first episode of the second year of the members only live stream. You believe that, guys? We made it through a year. Wow. And thank you all for becoming channel members. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, want to know what the heck a channel member is, just click that little join button right down there by the subscribe button. A panel will pop up and a video will play that'll tell you about channel membership. We have a great time on Monday evenings, and I hope to see some of you there, and I hope to see all the channel members there. If you did not get a notification with the link, check my community tab for the link to this tomorrow's members only live stream. So, other than that, I hope to see everybody here next Sunday. And until then, go have the week you deserve. Go do something cool. Go fishing. Whatever. Have a good one. And thank you, everybody. I really appreciate y'all. Bye bye.